We're going to go ahead and continue on into the next talk. We'll see a lot of you around our lunch break, I hope. So our next one is going to be a gentleman named Ran. He's going to be talking about their particular journey from the software as a service, industry and market as a whole, and their adoption of the CDK.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ron Isenberg, and I'd like to share with you our SaaS journey with CDK here at CyberArk. So let's start. So like I said, I'm Ron Isenberg. I'm currently cloud software architect here at CyberArk. Some of my hobbies include PC gaming, smart home automation, coding. I'm a little bit of a shopaholic, some would say, and I own an evil cat, as you can see by the picture. So a little bit about CyberArk and what we do. So CyberArk, as you might know, is the global leader in privileged access management. We have numerous solutions which are deployed on-premise and hybrid solutions or even in the cloud. But like other companies, currently we're moving into the cloud more and more. So this is where I come in. I actually had the privilege of joining one of the most interesting projects here at CyberArk this year, which is a pure serverless project, Python-based, and it's strictly on AWS, not multi-cloud, but just AWS. So why did we choose CDK for our deployment solution? So at the beginning, we looked at CloudFormation, and we found it to be too low level and too complicated. So we started to look at other frameworks. We looked at serverless and Terraform. So as you might know, serverless and Terraform, they require you to write YAML files, JSON file, or use the HCL, which is a proprietary language. Now, to me as an engineer, I find it less readable, it's harder to debug, and it has a steeper learning curve to learn all the quirks, all the configurations that you need to learn in Terraform serverless. One other issue is that it's not AWS backed, so new services or new services configurations and options might not be available as soon as possible. And another thing is that the main advantage of these frameworks is the multi-cloud support. But since we're going to be strictly AWS deployed, this advantage actually dissipated. So we then started to take a look at CDK. Now, CDK has a Python SDK, which means I can write the deployment configurations as code. And to me as an engineer, it's familiar and it's easier to me to read it. I can debug the deployment code in real time. It has a shorter learning curve. And the fact that it's AWS backed will mean that it will get all the support and all the new bells and whistles as the new services get published. So we started to work with CDK. Now, it wasn't. It took us some time to get the ball running, right? And to get the ball going. It wasn't as easy as we thought. We encountered some issues. We opened some GitHub issues. We found a missing feature in CDK. We wanted to create lambdas with custom dependencies, and it was a feature that was still under development, and we couldn't wait, so we had to develop something for ourselves. And we started working. And things started clicking, right? We had a meeting with CDK team, and they answered some of the questions. We implemented some of the missing features that we required. Some new features came out, and we started clicking and started to work. We also started to share more knowledge within the team, to share custom constructs that we created, and we finally got the first service deployed. So to me, the first time that I actually realized how great CDK was when I was working on the Audit Service POC. So what's the Audit Service POC? The Audit Service is basically a big data ingestion pipeline for audits, for logs. You get multiple logs from multiple customers, and you process them and you store them. And as you can see here, you have multiple services. You have S3 buckets, you have Lambdas, you have API gateways, you have AWS IoT, you have Kubernetes, you have Kinesis data streams, and you have Kinesis data firehose, and even Elasticsearch. and you have to connect all these Lego pieces together, right? So we were 3 people, and it took us 2 days to connect all these dots, while we weren't very familiar with most of these services. So to me, in hindsight, that's just amazing. I mean, CDK has allowed us to actually create all of this in just 2 days. So what's the bottom line here for CDK? CDK has allowed us to focus more on implementing the business logic, right? We were able to focus more on the Audit Service POC logic after we connected all the dots. It made the deployment issue into a non-issue, basically. And the most important thing is that CDK has helped us to decrease the development time. So now that I think that I've convinced you that CDK is awesome, I'd like to give you some tips and insights to really improve your development time and reduce the development cycle even further. So the first thing that I want to focus on is the AWS Service UI. Sometimes the AWS constructs for a service that you want don't exist or don't offer all the options that you require. And it's a bit hard to understand how to connect all the CFN lower level objects together. For example, EventBridge. EventBridge, you don't have an EventBridge construct. You need to create an event bus, a rule destination, and connect it all together. So it's easier to go into the EventBridge service page in the AWS UI and try to create the EventBridge yourself. And then you will see how everything is connected, and it will be easier for you to connect the CFN objects by yourself. So this is very helpful. I've used this numerous times. Another thing is, don't be scared to use CFN lower level, right? You don't always have to use the higher abstraction level constructs. Sometimes you just need the lower level CFN classes because they offer more options. For an example, S3 buckets with more advanced object retention options, you have to use the lower level CFN class, which is just okay, just a bit harder to configure, but sometimes you just have to get it done. Another thing that is highly important is to share constructs between teams. Share knowledge. The more and more you share knowledge and constructs between teams, the more you reduce your code duplication and decrease the dev time. Another issue is since our team grew during our time, it just continued to grow, and we had new engineers. We created a small CDK training program to get people going quickly. We actually had a webinar on CDK and a repo that they can play with, and this has been really helpful for us to get people into CDK more quickly. Also, you can use the CDK patterns library, which is relatively new. It's basically a library of constructs that are design patterns that we usually use, and AWS just created those for you, and you can reuse them and use them in your code and reduce them. You don't have to write them yourselves. And when everything seems bad and you just need some help, you can always use the Slack channel, the AWS Developer Slack channel, and go to the CDK channel and ask around for help. So what's next for us? What's next for us in our CDK journey? So we'll continue to share knowledge and experience. We have a blog series in this URL. We're talking about CDK and AWS in general. And we're doing webinars now on a regular basis. We have a CDK intro, which we're using at the CDK training program, which you can find in this URL. And we have the AWS IoT introduction webinar in this URL. And we'll probably continue to donate code to AWS open source repository. So if you have any more questions, or you want to follow my blog at a Medium or my Twitter, here are the links. And thank you very much for listening. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Ron, for this incredible journey report.